If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. This famous quote gets thrown around by founders as an excuse not to talk to customers, but here's the irony. If customers had actually said faster horses, they would be telling you something really valuable about a big problem we're solving. Talking to customers is still the fastest way to learn what people want, but you have to know how to talk to them. That's what I'm going to share with you today. Hi there, if you're new to this channel, my name is Ash Maurya. I'm an entrepreneur and author and the creator of the popular one-page business modeling tool, Lean Canvas. On this channel, I share systematic strategies and techniques for starting and growing a business. So today I'm going to show you why 3 of the most common approaches to understanding customers fail, and then share a much better way to uncover what customers actually want. The first approach is what I call the default founder's way. It's built on the premise of release early and release often, which is where I started too as a founder. The basic idea is to quickly build a product, or better yet, a minimum viable product or MVP, put it out in the world, and then wait for customer feedback to roll in. Now, this approach used to work at a time when barriers to entry were higher and customers had fewer product choices. Going back a decade, you could afford to give your customers a half-baked alpha or beta and then iterate with them to create something better. But when you launch a product this way today, you get back crickets because customers today have many more choices competing for their attention. When they encounter a half-baked product that doesn't immediately deliver value to them, they don't turn into beta testers. They instead ghost you and switch to another product. Without direct customer feedback, you're left guessing on how to fix your product. You try one feature after another in search of that mythical killer feature, which after a while feels like throwing spaghetti on the wall to see what sticks. Flying blind without customer feedback is not an optimal strategy for building what people want. The second approach is to directly ask customers what they want. This seems very logical on the surface, but here's the problem with this approach. Customers struggle to articulate what they want, especially when it comes from innovative products they have never seen before. This is where the faster horses sentiment comes in. Customers didn't ask Henry Ford for a cheaper automobile, or Steve Jobs for a smarter phone with no physical keyboard, or the Uber founders for a way to order a taxi from their mobile phone. Most new ideas start out a little crazy and don't look or sound like anything people are used to, but this still doesn't mean you shouldn't talk to customers. You just have to know what to talk to them about. To channel Steve Jobs, it's not the customer's job to know what they want. Customers are experts at telling you what frustrates them, but not so good at inventing new solutions. That's your job as the entrepreneur. So what about asking them about their problems instead? This is certainly a better approach, but it too has its fair share of landmines and pitfalls, especially when your goal is trying to validate problems you think your customers have. This usually involves asking customers to rank a list of problems on a scale of importance or urgency, but there are several issues with this approach. First, if the problems on your list don't resonate strongly with them, you hit a dead end, get stuck with nothing else to say or ask them. The interview is over. Second, when you lead with problems, you cast a spotlight on specific issues, which tend to exaggerate the customer's response. This is known as the spotlight effect. You're biasing their answers simply by bringing up the problem. And third, we are all prone to confirmation bias. We tend to hear what we want to hear. When validating problems, we often selectively filter information that confirms our preconceived notions about what customers want. I've seen many founders walk out of a customer interview convinced their solution is exactly what customers want, only to then spend the next 6 to 9 months building something nobody really wanted in the first place. So if these 3 common approaches don't work, is there a better way? Yes, there is, and it starts with understanding something I call the Innovators Gift. The Innovators Gift is a simple but powerful concept, and here's the basic premise. New problems worth solving come from old solutions. Think about it. All innovation is about solving problems, but truly worthwhile problems don't appear out of thin air. They come from the limitations, frustrations, and pain points of existing solutions. Let me give you an example. Why did we switch from cassette tapes to CDs? Or if you're too young to know what a cassette tape is, put yourself somewhere else on this timeline and ask the same question. These are massive billion-dollar switches, and it wasn't because of sound quality. First, most people don't have the ear to distinguish the sound quality differences across these different solutions. But more importantly, while sound quality technically went up when we moved from cassettes to CDs, it went downhill from there. So there were different reasons at play. Cassette tapes were just fine until CDs came along and broke the cassette tape by making a problem that was already there, rewinding and forwarding to find your favorite song, a problem worth solving. CDs allowed you to instantly jump to any track, which can be really cool when throwing a party or when you want to play that one song in the moment. The reason we then switched from CDs to MP3 players wasn't again because of better sound quality, but the ability to first download and then eventually buy the songs that we wanted and not the entire album on a CD. The reason we switched from MP3 players to the cloud was because 1,000 songs in our pocket that Steve Jobs promised us on the iPod was no longer enough. We now wanted access to 40 million songs in the cloud that we don't even want to own, but rather rent on demand. This led to the rise of streaming services. Do you see the common thread here in each of these switching stories? In each case, the new technology that gained traction didn't address new problems no one cared about, but rather specific problems with the old technology that were familiar, specific, and compelling. So how does this help with uncovering what customers want? If new problems worth solving come from old solutions, the best way then to uncover these new problems is by studying how people currently use these old solutions that you intend to displace. And here are the steps. Step 1, target customers of the old way. Instead of trying to find people who might be interested in your new solution, target people who are actively using popular existing alternatives. Like the music example above, note that these existing alternatives will most likely look nothing like your product. Your true competition is usually not some shiny startup down the street that no one is using, but rather the current status quo solution. Email and spreadsheets have killed more startups than other startups. Step 2, study when, why, and how they use the old way. This here is the key step. Don't ask them what they want. Don't even ask them about their problems directly. Instead, ask them to walk you through when, why, and how they use their current solution. Get them to tell you stories about specific instances when they used the product. In my book, Running Lean, I provide a comprehensive step-by-step guide for conducting these customer discovery interviews, including a detailed interview script that you can follow. The book walks you through exactly what questions to ask, how to ask them, and in what order so that you can systematically uncover the insights that matter most. The script isn't just based on theory, it's the exact process I've used to launch best-selling books and dozens of products like the Lean Canvas. When developing the Lean Canvas especially, I didn't start by asking entrepreneurs what they wanted in a business planning tool. Instead, I asked them to walk me through when, why, and how they used business plans. What I discovered was that most entrepreneurs hated writing 40-page business plans but felt obligated to do so. They weren't creating them for themselves, but for investors and stakeholders. They would waste weeks writing these fictional plans only to have investors then skim their executive summaries. These pain points led me to create a lightweight business plan alternative that fit on a single page, took just 20 minutes to create, and most importantly, was built for founders and not investors. So how do you uncover the right pain points during an interview? Contrary to popular belief, real problems worth solving don't sound like obvious save the planet type of problems. They come disguised as pet peeves, struggles, or workarounds. As customers tell you their stories, listen carefully for pet peeves. These are small annoyances that customers have grown accustomed to but still find frustrating. Number 2, struggles. These are more significant pain points that make using their existing solution difficult or time-consuming. And finally, workarounds. These are creative solutions customers have developed to overcome the limitations of their existing alternatives. This interviewing approach isn't focused on validating a list of problems, but rather discovering, using a backdoor technique, potential problems worth solving by picking up on these little cues. The magic of this type of customer interview is that people are more alike than unalike. It only takes 10 interviews for patterns to quickly emerge, and when you hear customers describe the same pet peeves, struggles, and workarounds over and over again, it's time to put your entrepreneurial cap on. not to build your solution, and here's another counterintuitive insight, but instead to sell your solution to these same customers before you build it. Yes, using a demo sell build versus a build demo sell approach, which is something I've covered in other videos. This is the only way I know to go from hoping people will buy your product to knowing that they will. Now, if you're more of a technical founder like me, the word sell probably makes you cringe. But did you know that founder-led sales are the highest converting type of sales, and this is a totally learnable skill? If you want to learn how, check out this video over here. Thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.